Hello everybody, and welcome back to the Maniacal Mini. So as you can see, this is the first time you're seeing my face in a while. So I usually like to get right in and just get started painting, but I do want to talk a little bit about the future of the channel, because there has been, some periods over the month where I haven't been able to actually put out videos and content and stuff like that as much as I'd like to. And so in order to start focusing more on being able to put a more consistent schedule together, I will be switching around some of the ways that we do things for this channel. So in the past, it's always been, paint this figure, with these paints, here's some weathering techniques, that's the end of it. So what I'm going to start doing now is creating more of a series with each faction that we have. And the first one I'm going to be doing is the Nighthaunt series. So just a couple of examples of some of the new things we're going to be bringing to the channel. We're going to be doing an episodic series based on each faction that'll be put in its own separate playlist. So we're going to start off with this episode today, which is, the prep for the Nighthaunt series, which will go over the paints that were used, the equipment that was used, some of the techniques to help prep the model in order for painting techniques that we're going to go over in future videos. As well as the basing and stuff like that. And as we go through future videos, we're going to be going over things like flesh, we're going to be going over things like weathering and OSL, bone, kind of stuff like that. It'll start out as just contrast, and that is to help you get your models on the table fast, just a way that you can do your contrast paints, so that way you can get at least a decent looking model on the table. And that's what we're going to be using for all of our rank and file, all the models that we have a lot of. And then what we're going to be doing is we're going to start going into more advanced techniques so that you can start doing centerpiece models as well. So the video will start with a contrast model, contrast paint to help you get it on the table fast. And as the video progresses, we'll get into more and more advanced techniques on how to do those items, such as metal, bone, cloth, leather, skin. So keep an eye out because we're going to be bringing more consistent videos to the channel because they'll be a little bit shorter, but we'll be able to put out more of them and get them all grouped together so that you guys can enjoy them that way. I do want to thank you guys too for all the support and love that you've shown the channel over the past 2 years. I just hope these changes are well received by you. The content itself will remain the same for the most part. We'll still have those, dark setting videos, and we'll still go into, some cool weathering and stuff like that, but I want to go more in depth. I want to show you more of the products, kind of explain what's going on physically and chemically with some of them, why we're getting some of the effects that we're getting and stuff like that, just to help you guys kind of understand it a little bit more and hopefully get you to enjoy a separate style of painting if you've never tried it. And for the people that do paint this way all the time, maybe give you some cool ideas as to, different ways that you can look at things. So I really do hope you enjoy it. I want to thank you again for being, a valued subscriber of the channel. I really do appreciate it. And I hope to see you in the next one, and I hope you enjoy this one as well. And we will see you later. Thank you. Bye. All right, everybody, so here is the equipment and paint list that I'll be using for this video today. It's got a good list of all the equipment that I used, as well as some of the paints that we picked out from different companies. But as you can see right now, I'm just going to start out. I already primed the model black. That is with an outdoor spray can primer, right from Hobby Lobby. I don't use Games Workshop just because the black can be a little too glossy for me, the Chaos Black from Games Workshop. So I like to do the outdoor primer because it's super, super matte. So now I'm coming in with my Harder Steenbeck airbrush. I got it set to about 30 psi. I'm using the 0.4 nozzle. This is just going to set up our contrast paint steps for later. It's also going to set up the look for that cloak, because I do want a white cloak that we're going to dirty up a little bit later when we go to our weathering steps in a future video. So I'm just coming through, as you can see, with that Badger Steiner Res. I'm going to do about 2 coats of it just so I can build up that opacity and help us set up a lot of cool effects for later. All right, with that Zenithal highlight stage done, we are moving into our oil wash. Now that is with black oil paint from Actylum 502. I thinned it down pretty heavily with mineral spirits just so I can get that flow to it, so that it, you know, kind of goes into all those recesses pretty easily, kind of flows off of everything, but also, you know, tints down and kind of dirties everything that it does touch, to kind of help us set up, you know, for later stages when we get into weathering. Now we already have some steps that are set up, so it kind of makes that weathering stage a little bit later pretty easy. It also is going to set that cloak up. So like I said, that cloak is going to be one of the biggest things, because we want it to kind of retain that sort of off whiteness after we put all this stuff on it. We want it to have that kind of dirty look, dirty looking natural white cloak. That'll be really cool once we get all the steps that we need to done with it. So as you can see, I'm just putting that black wash all over the model, and now I'm going to take some Q-tips and some mineral spirits, and I'm actually going to start working that black off of all of the raised areas, leaving it in the recesses to kind of, you know, act as a liner, as well as kind of tint down and dirty down things before we start putting our contrast paints on, which is going to help with a lot of steps. So as you see, I'm just going very, very gently here. I'm not rubbing too hard, because if you do rub pretty hard, you can work your way back down to that black primer, and that's not what we want, because we want everything to be able to look uniform when we're done with it, but we also want it to have kind of that, you know, dirty look like we're talking about, because that is what the grimdark style is all about, is, you know, natural colors, dirty looks, you know, rust, kind of like more natural setting environments. So that's kind of what we're going for from here on out with all of our videos. We're gonna kind of step away from, you know, kind of the cartoony colors, and stick more to those muted down tones and, you know, dirty whites and stuff like that. So now that I'm coming through, I'm gonna start on the base now. For that, I'm bringing in Stynylrez Black Primer. So I'm just gonna coat the entire base with this black primer. It's probably going to take about 2 coats to reach full opacity, but I might do a little bit more than that just to make sure that I do get a nice full coating on there. So as you can see, I'm just making sure that everything is nice and even, everything is, you know, nothing's pooling up in the recesses of that, making sure that the pressure on the airbrush isn't too high. The black Stynylrez does have a tendency to clog up a lot, so keep an eye on that. Make sure it's pretty thinned down. It will come out like sort of grayish looking when you first start with your first couple passes. That's okay, just keep building it up from that point, and you'll get a nice natural opacity look at the end of it. So it is really, really cool. It's a nice paint, but like I said, just watch out for that clogging. Make sure your tip's not drying, all that stuff. All right, and now I'm going to be bringing in some contrast paint. So as you can see, I did the same thing, the Zenithal highlight with that Badger Stynylrez white over the top. So now I'm bringing in that Basilicanum gray contrast paint from Games Workshop. Really, really nice stone color. So I'm going to be using that for the gravestone that you see here. I'm just letting it pool on all those recesses. I'm not overloading my brush because I don't want to, you know, drown out some of those details and stuff like that inside the actual gravestone. But I'm just keeping it nice and light. We're trying to, you know, kind of avoid a lot of the tide marks and stuff that you can get from contrast paints, which is also another reason why I kind of dull down my Zenithal with either Nuln Oil or a black oil wash, because it'll actually help you a lot with avoiding those streak marks and those tide marks, because it also sets up that light gradient from deepest shadows to light. So it's really, really helpful in those steps. So we're going to leave it there. We'll pick it up in a sec. All right, now I'm taking some AK Interactive Dark Earth texture. It comes in a really huge tube. I highly recommend all of their texture paints. All of their diorama stuff is absolutely amazing. Green Stuff World comes in a close second for me, but AK Interactive just blows it out of the water. Every single product that they make, I cannot highly recommend enough. So I'm gonna put this, as you can see, I'm doing it all over the model. There was a little bit of ground that was on the actual gravestone, you know, just kind of melded in there. So we're gonna push some dark earth up onto that earth that's on the gravestone to kind of, you know, seal it into the actual base itself, make it look more uniform and even, just to get that really natural look. So I'll leave it there. I'll pick it up with you guys in a sec. All right, so I gave that AK Interactive Dark Earth texture about 20-30 minutes to dry. Now I'm coming in with a light dry brush pass of Carrick Stone all over the dirt. I just want to kind of pop it out, make it look more like a frozen earth. That's what we're going to go for with this. And we're going to take that up. I'll show you a couple more steps when we actually get to our final episodes about how to finish up these bases, because right now we just want to get the basic things done on them, but all those other things are going to come after, because we don't want to put down those items and then have them get hit with paint that gets splattered or something like that. God forbid we mess it up. So we're just going to set this up for now, and then we're going to do a couple more things on this base just to kind of finish that setup, and then we will pick this back up once we hit our weathering stages and all that other stuff in future videos. So just keep going nice and light with that. Don't load up your brush too much. Make sure you're taking it off on a paper towel, all that good stuff. And then we're going to do some AK Interactive leaves. Now, these are like micro leaves. So what I'm doing is I'm taking a little bit of a Elmer's glue with a little bit of water mixed down, and I'm just going to dot the base that it's going on, like where I want to put those leaves. And then I'm going to take a little bit and I'm going to brush the backside of the leaf that I'm putting down, just so that we get that extra adhesion to the base. As you can see, I'm picking a couple different colors here. You'll see me put them down in a sec. I already have that red one, but I do have a kind of a lightish brown one and a darker brown one. We're going to put those ones on as well, just to help get that feel of like wintertime is coming in this graveyard. The leaves are starting to fall, autumn's here, and then we're going to be adding a little bit of snow later on once we get to those final steps for these tutorial series. So we'll pick it up from that point a little bit later on, but I'll let you guys watch this one out. We'll pick it up in another step in a sec. All right, now I'm just going to take some Abaddon Black and I'm going to do the rim of the base here, just to tie it in, make it look a little bit more uniform and tight together. I always like to do, something like this. You always should do the rim of the base, whether it's trying to color match whatever the actual earth tone is on the base, or just doing, plain black, kind of setting it up like a display, which is really, really nice too. So, whatever floats your boat, whatever you feel. I just used black because this is going to be a darker tone model. So I don't want to, kind of mess around. I want to have that rim of the base almost look invisible, when compared to the model that's on top of it, floating around with his ghostly green glows and stuff like that. So now I'm going to show you how to do the pre-made base that a lot of the Nighthaunt come on. So as you know, that there are a good number of models in the Nighthaunt series that do have these pre-made bases on them. So right now I'm bringing back in that Basilicanum Gray contrast paint, and I'm going to be painting all the stonework on these pre-made bases with that Basilicanum Gray. Again, I already kind of doled this down, this base. As you can see, it does look a little bit darker. So with that, this is going to help too with the tide marks again, to make sure that our base looks nice and even at the end of it. Just take your time, make sure you're not loading up too much of that contrast paint on your brush, because like I said earlier, you don't want to drown out any of those details or recesses or anything like that. We're trying to make this look as natural and even as possible. So I'll leave it there for a second. We'll pick it back up. And because these pre-made bases have plenty of leaves on them as well, I'm trying my best to color match with the AK Interactive leaves that I have. So the first thing I'm going to be doing is pretty much all over every leaf with this Gryph-hound Orange contrast paint, just to kind of match the orange leaves that I have. And as you can see, it does give that nice little color. It kind of dulls it down once we have, that Nuln Oil over the actual Zenithal. It adds these really nice shadow tones and stuff to the actual leaves and pretty much all the details on the base, which is really, really nice. So I'm going to let you guys finish this one out because we do have a couple more colors for these leaves, but we'll pick them up in another step. All right, again, now that we're just trying to color match the leaves that we have on our handmade bases, I'm going to be taking in some Flesh Terror Red, and I'm going to just be picking out a couple of those leaves that we already did in orange, just to add a little bit more richness and depth to the colors of that red going over that orange. You'll still see some of that orange underneath, which is really nice, but you'll have that red pop of those leaves that you did pick out with those. So it's going to add some variation in the tones and the colors of the base, which will add for a really nice effect once we do all the weathering steps in a future video. So again, I'll let you guys watch here, and we'll pick it up with one more leaf color in a second. And for the final color that we're going to be using on these leaves, I have grabbed some Cygort Brown contrast paint. That's going to be this really deep, rich brown, so we already look like we have some of those leaves that are, kind of falling off and rotting away. Those are what these are going to represent. So again, it's just going to add some more depth and variety into the leaves that we already have on the base, adding some more colors and tones, and just making the whole thing tie together really nicely for this nice autumnal, almost wintertime graveyard. So we're going to keep going with this. I'm going to pick out maybe a few more leaves here, and then we'll move into our final stages in just a second. So I haven't decided quite yet if I'm going to do the spots of AK Interactive Dark Earth texture on these bases yet. So right now I'm just going to set up that dirt look, and for that I'm going to be using Agarose Dunes. It's a little bit lighter of a brown. It kind of matches like a more like I guess you would call it like a slightly brighter dirt. It's just like freshly kicked up dirt. So it's gonna have more of a like a newish dirt look than it would if we were to go back over it with the AK Interactive texture paint, because that obviously is a darker earth. So I haven't quite decided yet. I do kind of like the look of this Agarose Dunes, but again, we might pick this back up in our weathering video, and at that point I might switch it up and do some texture paint on these actual bases themselves as well, just to kind of help tie them all together and make them look more uniform. And just to pick out the skull that's on the base here, we're just going to be using that pallid bone. This one is actually one of the new speed paints from Army Painter. I received all of them, but I only have a select few that I've tried so far, and this one is definitely one of my favorites. Perfect looking bone color. So now we're going to be doing that one last final step that we did with the other base. We're just going to be coating the rim of it with that Abaddon black, trying to tie it all in together, make it look more uniform and nice. And like I said, we're going to probably do a couple more steps on this one, maybe later on in the weathering video, just to kind of try and help, if we need it to tie it in with our handmade bases a little bit more, like by adding that dark earth texture. But for right now, I think it looks pretty cool, and for our purposes, this looks all right for now. So I'm going to go with this and kind of leave this one how it is for right now, and maybe we'll pick it up in the future, maybe not. But I do want to thank you guys for checking this out. I really do appreciate, we are trying to change some things with the channel. I hope this video kind of, scratches that itch for a more in-depth, as far as what we were doing, kind of the products we were using and all that other stuff. We will go into more depth in our future videos in this series. We're going to be doing some, the cloth, the undead flesh. We're going to do a weathering. We're going to be doing a wood series. So there's going to be plenty of stuff to look forward to. So I just want to thank you guys again for sticking with me for these last year and a half. And, I know that I haven't been able to put out all the videos that I've wanted to, and I've had some things pop up where that kind of, slowed me down on my production schedule and all that stuff. And, just running things on the commission side, it gets a little bit hectic and crazy, but I think I've kind of found a nice middle ground where we can start, making some moves here. So again, I want to thank you guys so much. I hope you have a great day, and remember to subscribe if you're not already a subscriber, and leave a like if you enjoyed this video so that we can continue to bring you more. Happy painting out there.